Hello, welcome to 8.9 News. I'm Finlo Costain. Today's headlines: a study shows that ecological tipping points could occur faster than expected. First Milk launches a Naturally Better Dairy Group partnership with Yeo Valley. And a report finds that farmers can earn up to 45% more with nature-friendly farming techniques. You can find those stories in full on our website, 8.9.com. Farmer-owned dairy cooperative First Milk has announced a new partnership with dairy manufacturer Yeo Valley. The Naturally Better Dairy Group is a collaboration that will see First Milk establish a new conventional regenerative milk pool in the southwest of England. Mark Brooking is First Milk's sustainability director. I asked him to tell us more.
The Naturally Better Dairy Group is a collaboration between ourselves, First Milk, and Yeo Valley. Actually, is like whereby what we're looking to do is establish a milk pool, which actually is like looking to get better outcomes. Actually, is like for dairy farming, in particular in the areas for climate, animal welfare, of actually is like the environment and of actually the local community as well.
Now, you describe this as regenerative agriculture, as regenerative agriculture being at the heart of it. Why is regenerative agriculture important to First Milk?
It's really important to First Milk because it's important to our members. Actually, like we established several a few years ago that our farmers farm in a very similar system, and it was really before the term became popular that regenerative farming, I would say, is that our members were practicing. And what we recognized is actually like this was a very good way of actually improving their resilience, which is like, both in terms of financial resilience, but actually is like, the changing climate as well. The actual outcomes of the regenerative farming, which we're promoting to our members, is also good to enable us to hit our targets, which we have stretching targets from a point of view, whether that's from carbon sequestration, whereby we're looking to sequester 100,000 tons for our membership by 2025. But also, it's actually not just about carbon, it is about improving and increasing biodiversity on farm. But again, it actually is like, improving resilience, again, for the members.
So, Mark, will you be sourcing from new farms or from those already contracted to First Milk and Yeo Valley?
It will be both, which is like Finland, which is like, so we will have members in the area, so in the target area, which is the southwest, which is like, as far as we're targeting, but which is like we will also be bringing in suppliers from outside our current milk pool. The key thing is they will need to want to be on the regenerative journey. It's actually as you well know, there's actually no set standard that they have to achieve to be there, and it will be a journey that they'll continue for years. Years to come.
So how are you going to measure regeneration on Naturally Better Dairy Group farms? I mean, you mentioned one or two of those metrics earlier on. How physically are you going to measure these from farm to farm?
We very much are into being able to use data, which is is to be able to measure changes, and wherever possible we use exact measurements. So as far as whether that be testing for a carbon stock, which is like on each farm, but several things that as again, which is like will be proxies. So it will be asking farmers to actually fill in of interventions they both are either undertaking now or plan to in the future, which will be beneficial in every single one of these areas. So as I said, it's not just about carbon, it will be for biodiversity, but also interaction with the local community as well, which we see as being a very important part as a cooperative, and it would have the same views from Yeo Valley is who are a large part of the community which we both live and work in.
So it sounds like there are a number of outcomes that you're going to be measuring, but where some of those outcome measures are slightly more challenging, perhaps there's a focus on more traditional inputs and using those as a proxy for the potential outcomes.
Certainly some are, that we will require, to be measuring inputs. But I have to say, is technology is moving on very quickly now, and therefore what we're trying to do is wherever possible is to be able to get some real hard data to be able to demonstrate what we're achieving. We already have implemented a scoring system for all of our members, which will roll out across the Naturally Better Dairy Group, whereby we show farmers where they are in both carbon, biodiversity, and water, for instance, and they'll be able to see if actually like, how they're progressing. We one of the key things we say about the Naturally Better Dairy Group is it will be for progressive dairy farmers, those who want to actually as a continuously improve, which is a regenerative way of thinking.
There are fears around greenwash with larger brands and regenerative agriculture. How are you going to communicate what you're doing with customers so that they can trust and believe in your products?
That really comes back to exactly the same as I was saying before, is we need hard data, which is like, as far as to be able to demonstrate that the interventions or actions of our farmers are actually having a positive result on the actual, is in the world we live in. We believe we can do that, not, as I say, just in certainly in carbon, whereby you can go and take samples and actually measure it, but also in biodiversity. We're into animal welfare actually measurement as well. We've got projects we're working on in order to be able to use technology to be able to demonstrate that animals have a life worth living. We need to be able to measure and prove to both ourselves and, most importantly, the customer and consumer, that what we're doing is good for us, it's good for the farmers, and actually but it's good for the planet and them as well.
So it sounds like you'll be trying to use images and stories to simplify that message that's going out on those products. But then there's a real narrative, a real story that's sort of backing that up with the metrics, with that data that you're collecting behind it, so that if people have questions, they're able to find that information.
Most definitely, we're fully open. One of the requirements will be is openly being able to share data, but actually as I have an open farm policy, is to say, come and have a look to what we're doing. It's something we do in First Milk already, is actually we invite people around, and I have to say is actually our members fully support. The fact is that we should be proud of what we're doing every day, which is as far as our concept is is doing the right thing every day, which is for our members, and the same way as any staff member as well. I mean, I genuinely think it's the message we were putting across is that dairy can be part of the climate solution, and the Naturally Better Dairy Group, I would like to think, will be our way of is making sure that this is at the forefront of of that approach.
That was Mark Brooking from First Milk. More about this and our other headline news on our website, 8.9.com. That's all for now. We're back on Wednesday. Thanks for watching.